And in fact, you make a very interesting point in the book, Scott, where you talk about the power of apprenticeship, right?
Hmm.
Where I think you cover that point very well, saying that there are fields where apprenticeship is actually done, in professions like music and
Yeah.
other maybe in a medical profession where a lot of apprenticeship helps you build mastery, right?
Hmm.
So talk to me about the power of apprenticeship in building mastery.
So apprenticeship is a kind of I think when you look at, so I'll just preface this, whenever you look at any learning system or any kind of framework, there's always strengths and weaknesses. There's always things that it does well and things that it doesn't do so well. So if I were to like talk about learning systems or learning environments, I don't have any that I would point to and be like, well, this is the ideal way to learn everything, right? It's always this trade-off. And so to me, what apprenticeships do really well is that you are getting good feedback. The skill is very close to the one that's actually practiced, which is a major problem. I talk about it a lot in my first book, Ultralearning, of this indirectness, where you are in a classroom. The teacher doesn't know where you're going to be working. They don't know what you're going to be doing. So they try to give you quite generic skills. And
Mm.
sometimes that's useful. I mean, if you're going to go in any math field, learning algebra is important. You have to do it. And I don't really think there's another way of doing it. But I went to business school, and I remember sitting through a lot of classes that would talk about business strategy in such an abstract, detached way that you really question whether or not these kids would not just be better off working for a couple of years than sitting through these classes. And I think that's true of a lot of fields. I
Yeah.
did this kind of computer science sort of self-education project that I talked about at when we opened from MIT. And like MIT classes are great, but they're super conceptual and abstract. And so you could definitely just take all those classes and not be a very good programmer. Whereas, what you need to do to program is program a lot. So apprenticeship gives you that repetition. It gives you that directness. It gives you those actual skills. What is apprenticeship? What is the weakness of apprenticeship? Well, the weakness of apprenticeship is that the people who are teaching you are too busy to teach you. They don't
Mm.
have time or patience to tell you how to do the job. And you are in an environment where you're trying to get work done. And because you're trying to get work done, there can be this sort of like, well, let's not let this person do the actual important work because they're going to screw it up, even if that's what they need to learn. So I think apprenticeship is just this essential vehicle. But when you're in an apprenticeship environment versus a school environment, you have these kind of like counterbalancing
Mm.
weaknesses, that the school environment is indirect, but it's also like you have someone who it's their whole job to teach you. Maybe they're not doing a good job, but that's what their job is. You have peers. Everything is about learning. It's not about like, making sales quotas. Whereas when you're doing apprenticeship, it's so important to try to like get some of that school environment in the apprenticeship process, like be on projects where you can genuinely learn and grow, and be with people that you can ask stupid questions to and they can give you helpful answers, and you can navigate that social network. And when you're in the school, it's good to have the work experience and the things that are like, okay, this is actually what you're going to be doing, and so you can get that experience. And so I think apprenticeship is really important. It's underused, but it's also something that, essentially that's how we get good at our jobs. In almost every job is some form of apprenticeship.